Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Tech Talk Tuesdays here at Treadwell. This is our first session for 2025. So, firstly, Happy New Year, and thanks again for joining us. If you joined us last year, welcome back. And if you're joining for the first time, welcome. Edward Titley is my name, and we hold these brief 15-minute sessions every fortnight on a Tuesday at this time. It's at 1:30 New South Wales time. And we run through a variety of topics, products, FRP related discussions, design standards, all this sort of stuff. So, firstly, before we start, you should see a poll come up on your screen. We'd really appreciate if you'd take half a minute to add some information there. Any feedback is welcome, good, bad, or ugly, on what we do in these sessions, and also always looking for ideas on suggestions. So, please feel free to give us some feedback or just chuck it on the chat, on the Q&A window, either or. And on that note, the Q&A window is open now, so feel free to ask any questions as we go. Otherwise, we'll have a little Q&A session at the end. Today, we're looking at our X-Duro range. So X-Duro is our range of FRP cable ladder, cable tray, and accessories like strut profiles, covers, all that sort of thing. So why FRP and cable management? So we started making FRP cable ladder really on client request. Traditionally, high corrosion areas, stainless was used. Now, there's a couple of challenges that come with stainless, as you would probably know if you work in this sort of corrosion environment. Number one is, as per all metallic products, conductivity, and that can be a challenge or an undesirable attribute with a cable ladder or a cable tray. Second thing is dissimilar metals. Where we've got a mild steel structure and we want to use a stainless cable ladder for durability, we need to somewhere isolate to prevent galvanic corrosion and dissimilar metals problems. So that's number two. And number three is weight. FRP cable ladder is a lot lighter than your traditional metallic product, and it's a lot easier feedback. We get a lot easier to put in, a lot faster to put in, because you're reducing your labour requirements, no hot work on site, that sort of thing, but more on that in due course. So what is X-Duro? As we mentioned, cable ladder, cable tray, cable duct, so a variety of cable support systems, and instrument or LCS stands as well. We work according to the NEMA standards, and we'll have a bit of a look at NEMA FT1 shortly, just a very brief overview. Happy to do a longer session on that in due course. If anyone's interested, please note that on the chat or on your feedback form. We offer a classification which I believe is somewhat unique in FRP cable ladder internationally, up to NEMA 20C classification, so 148 kilos per linear metre and a 6 metre span. Also higher on request, we've worked on some 8.5 metre span cable ladders before, so a lot of options with FRP, or a lot of flexibility with FRP to keep some slightly non-standard, or shall I say unconventional applications there. Now, a brief look at NEMA, or the NEMA classification. So any cable ladder product, whether it's steel, FRP, aluminium, anything else, is going to have a NEMA classification. Now, some manufacturers have their proprietary own rating system, like NEMA 1, 2, 3, etc. However, they will all convert to a NEMA class designation like we see here. Now, a NEMA class is a number followed by a letter. What that number means is the support span in feet. Now, this little table here, we convert it to meters. So NEMA class 8, 2.4 meter span, 12, 3.6 meter span, 16, 4.8 meter span, and 20, 6 meter span. And then class A, B, and C have a pounds per linear foot working load, which we've converted here into meters. So class A is 74.4 kilos per meter as a working load. Class B is 111.6 kilos per linear meter, and class C is 148.8 kilos per meter. And once again, that applies to any cable ladder or cable tray product, whether it's FRP, stainless steel, aluminium, or any other material. So the NEMA classification applies to any product. Now, this might be an obvious one, especially if you've joined us before, but for those of us who are new, what is FRP? So here at Treadwell, FRP is our specialty. FRP is fibre reinforced polymer or fibre reinforced plastic. You may also have heard the term GRP or GFRP, depending on what region we're from. There's some different acronyms, but what we're talking about is a polymer or a plastic composite with glass fibre as our reinforcement. So if we have a little bit of a look inside here, this case is a side rail for a cable ladder. Also could be a C channel, but side rail for a cable ladder in this instance. You can see a variety of components. So we have our woven, mat, and continuous glass rovings. So they give us our shear and torsional and tensile and flexural strength, respectively. Resin provides our corrosion resistance and as a binder, and the surface layer gives us a nice protective coating on the outside, nice smooth resin-rich finish. Now, we've done some other webinars on resin selection, those sort of things, so I won't go into that today. Feel free to jump on and have a look at those on our website, or I think they're on our YouTube channel as well, or drop us a note. And we'll share an email address a little bit later. Happy to send those through to you or have any further discussion you'd like to have. So the products we offer here, FRP cable ladder. So this is a traditional cable ladder type product, typically your heavy duty type applications, water treatment plants, mine processing, some in the rail and power industries, those sort of heavy duty environments. So a cable ladder consists of our two side rails. Here at Treadwell, our side rails are a C or a channel profile, and then our rungs in between, which provide a location to support and tie off our cables. Typically, rungs here at Treadwell are 300 mil spacing, but other spacings are available on request. 150 mil is another common one for clients who like a little closer rung spacing. So a few advantages we mentioned earlier was to why I would consider an FRP cable ladder on my project. Number one is the lightweight aspect. Look, it depends on whose brand cable ladder it is, but typically we see 20-30% reduction in weight, depending on whose product we're comparing to, whether it's mild steel, stainless aluminium, etc. But there's typically a weight reduction. There's no hot work on site, so if we need to do any modifications, cutting or drilling or anything like that, there's no need to do. There's no hot work that's part of that process. No earth leads or straps. Obviously, the product's non-conductive, so there's no earthing and bonding. Having said that, if there's a hazardous area designation, petroleum storage, loading facilities, ethanol, fuel, those sort of places, we can incorporate an additive to the product to give it the static discharge capability. Specific surface resistivity requirements, we can add an additive to allow the product to be conductive and dissipate a static charge, so there's no risk of explosions. But as standard, it's non-conductive. We mentioned again up to NEMA 20C classification or higher on request. So one of the things here is as FRP is what we do, we're able to provide custom or bespoke products, longer span, higher load capacities, those sort of things. All our products are UV stable as standard. Another webinar on that, so we won't go into that in great detail today. But all our products have a UV stabilizer and a fire retardant, the next point, added into the resin. So not just a surface coating, it's a fully incorporated material throughout the whole product. Non-conductive, mentioned that. And lastly, dissimilar metals. FRP is non-metallic, obviously non-conductive. So there's greatly simplified, or there's significantly reduced issues around earthing and bonding and those sort of things, because there's no need, or there's no issue with dissimilar metals or requirements to isolate FRP from a metallic product that's touching or nearby, like a support structure. There's no issues with dissimilar metals in that context, or in that situation, if you like. FRP cable tray. So this is a tray, not a very clear photo, but it's a cable tray. So a tray is a solid single piece product. Can be slotted or ventilated for easier cable tie-off and to facilitate cooling, or it can be a solid base product. Typically, we'd see tray used in your lighter duty applications, data cables, shorter span requirements, or or services like compressed air that are somewhat self-supporting but just need a place to be routed for protection and so on. So that's where cable tray is often used. We also offer an FRP strut product. So as you see here, your traditional strut profiles, most common product is 41 by 41 mil, and we also offer a DS S74 product for embedment in concrete, and also S82, which is a double-sided strut product. We also offer a range of accessories, pipe clamps, channel nuts, those sort of things, so you can design yourself a full support structure out of FRP for your cable ladder. Marine rung. This is one of the special. This is one of the special features of the X-Duro product. So traditionally, FRP cable ladder had a 25 by 25 mil square run. Now, feedback from clients was that this was a bit hard to tie off to, a bit slower to install, difficulty with positioning cables and ties and all the rest of it. So this is our marine rung. It was originally developed for structures over water having a wave uplift and may need to keep the cables particularly securely affixed, hence the term marine rung. However, marine rung is now standard on all X-Duro products. So if you order, excuse me, if you order an FRP cable ladder as of now, you will receive it with the marine rung, unless for whatever reason you require the standard square rung. But if nothing else is specified, if there's no requirement for that, marine rung is now standard. We've mentioned the ease of installation or ease of modification in the field. Bit more detail on that. So FRP can simply be cut with either hand tools or power tools with a diamond blade. There's no need to. There's no hot work. There's no fire hazards. There's no need for hot works permits on site because the swarf, if you like, generated from cutting is not or is not hot. There's no sparks or fire hazards like that. The other thing is there's a lot less or no risk of cutting. There's not a sharp edge generated typically by a cut edge like you might see with metal products, and you need to deburr them. We've mentioned the weight aspect, typically 30 to 35% lighter than stainless for equivalent load bearing capacity. Reasons for benefits to that: reduced shipping cost, simplified field handling, and then for offshore applications, reduced ballast on floating platforms and a lot easier or a lot simplified transportation and installation. Now, just very brief before we finish, we're nearly out of time, so we need to keep moving. Just a brief draw your attention to the NEMA FG1 standard. So NEMA VE1 is the standard for steel or metallic cable ladder. FG1 is for fiberglass. Now, in this standard, it talks about manufacturing standards, performance standards, and class designations, which we've discussed, I should say, test standards, and so that talks about how the testing is to be done to determine our load capacity, safety factors, all those sort of things, specifications and drawings, because that's typical designs and that sort of thing, and application information, things around installation, location of support structures, supportive fittings, that sort of thing. So we won't go through that today, but I would draw your attention to it, and it's recommended reading. It's not a particularly long standard, so it's not insurmountable to have a bit of a look. A couple of details though. Typically, deflection limits are not considered in the design of FRP cable ladders unless there's a specific requirement around deflection. And in that case, we can, excuse me, that case, happy to talk to you about, talk to this with you. So the deflection you'll see in the cable ladder at the rated and working loads. However, typically it's not necessary because FRP, typically we're limited by deflection rather than strength. So hence in a cable ladder application to prevent over design, typically we design to strength. The NEMA standard requires a safety factor of 1.5 as a minimum, so that's what we work to. And just a note from NEMA on concentrated static load. NEMA's suggestion on that is that we convert them to an equivalent uniform load. If this exceeds the standard working loads that are outlined for the products, then by all means discuss that with us. Opportunity to develop a bespoke product. Just on supports and on the way through, this is a cable trough. So this is a deeper, it's like a cable tray, but just deeper. And this is on a jetty to provide secure containment for cables and protection. Horizontal, but on supports, horizontal and vertical tray should provide adequate bearing surface and have provisions for hold down clamps or fasteners. So we offer a complete hold down clamp system in FRP with stainless channel nut, and vertical should provide secure means for fastening trays to support. So more on, happy to discuss on a project specific basis what that looks like. I'm not NEMA, so I can't tell you what they meant. By standard, we can certainly share advice and successes, what's worked well in the past, that sort of stuff. Couple of quick little photos. This is a project in New Zealand, corrosive geothermal area. This is an FRP cable tray. This is a slotted tray or a perforated tray, and that's used there. Some solar salt facilities. This is more a structural application, but to give you a good idea of where FRP is used. There's a little bit of cable tray on this. It's a bit difficult to see. And lastly, a zinc refinery. This is a full cable tray solution as well. So this is all FRP that you can see here with the marine rung. Looks very similar to metallic product, but that's a full FRP installation. That's it. Sorry, we're slightly over time. Thanks again for joining us for our first webinar this year. Thanks, Kevin, for your comment on the strut. We'll keep an eye out for that. We'll add that to the schedule. And anyone else, we're online for a quick Q&A now. Or feel free to, if you can think of, if you'd like to set up a further discussion around a project, site visit, anything like that, feel free to join us. Or feel free to drop us a note and we'll be glad to join you, I should say. hello@treadwellgroup.com.au, or give us a call, 1-800-246-800 in Australia and 0800-244-600 for New Zealand. Stay online for half a minute if there's any more questions. So I'd appreciate your comment, Kevin. We'll add that to the list. If there's no more questions, thanks again for joining us. Trust it was worthwhile. Any feedback, good, bad, or ugly, is appreciated. If the sessions are worthwhile, that's good to know. If the sessions are a waste of time, please let us know. And any topics you'd like to go through in further. As I understand it, FRP applications, anything you think of, please suggest it. And if it's within our area of expertise, we'd be happy to schedule the webinar. Thanks again for joining us. I won't see you in 2 weeks, but we'll have another webinar in 2 weeks. So feel free to keep an eye out for that to register. And thanks again for joining. Have a good day.